Hi, Baddies. Welcome back to another episode of Tara's Baddies Club. This week has been so much fun with the podcasting course. There has been some free panels. We have Amy Chesler, Danielle Lycum, and Danielle Cedar joining me for sharing your story, writing your story. So I hope you guys can join us for that. They are all authors of their survivor story. And I could use some advice in that myself. So I'm going to just pick your brains, and you guys can also ask questions. This panel is completely free, so I hope you guys can join me. And then the podcasting course has started this week as well. I hope you guys join me for that too, but you guys have to sign up for that. There's so much exclusive content that you guys get when you sign up for the podcasting course, and then you get to interact with so many great experienced podcasters in the industry and ask them the questions that you want to ask someone when you're starting a podcast. So I hope you guys join me for that. And then today's guest, I'm really excited because I have been a fan of them since they were on my friend Roberta Blevin's podcast, Life After MLM. And she had on Nick Thompson from Love is Blind, and he has this amazing foundation called UCAN. It provides mental health services to people in reality TV, also legal services, and anything you really need about helping when you navigate going into reality TV, because there's not a guidebook that goes along with that. So I think it's really cool that he started that. And so I'm going to welcome him today. Let's welcome Nick Thompson. All right. Well, Nick, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm so excited to have you because our dear friend Roberta, you were on her podcast, and that's when I really found out about your mission. And so I'm excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. It's great to meet you, and I am always loving these little crossovers that we have in the network of building and meeting people and building a good network of good people. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, for the people that don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where people might know you from?
Yeah, so my name is Nick Thompson. I was a main cast member on Love is Blind season 2, which I think season 8 just ended. So it seems like it's a lifetime ago. It's been about 4 years since I filmed that. And so that's probably where most people know me from. But since my experience on the show, I started a nonprofit organization with a couple co-founders called the UCAN Foundation, which is the Unscripted Cast Advocacy Network. And we have 3 pillars of work that we're doing as a 1C3 nonprofit. One is we are helping reality TV cast members from the past, present, and future get mental health and then legal services to make sure that they're getting the support, legal contract advice, all of that kind of stuff, as well as we thirdly advocate for change in the industry so that we can get better working conditions for cast members so we can end exploitation for all of our entertainment.
I love that. And say you get approached by a show, do you just go to you guys directly, or how would you get involved with you guys?
Yeah, there's several ways you can get involved. One, our website, which is theucanfoundation.org. You can submit a form. We have some options on there. We have a network of over 400 therapists. I believe we cover all 50 states, some several times over now. And if you need legal advice or a contract review, or you find yourself in the contract phase of a show or post show and you want to know what your rights are, those kinds of things we can give you consult on as well. Or if you just want to get in touch and see other ways you can help or other ways you can get involved, you can just send us a general inquiry there. You can DM us on Instagram, which is the_UCAN_foundation, I think. Or you can DM me directly on Instagram as well, and I monitor all of those myself. That's typically how people get involved or reach out to us, whether they're a cast or a volunteer of some sort or someone that just wants to get involved and provide an area of expertise to the organization and our people.
Yes, I love that. And now, okay, so how did you get started with this organization? Like, what really prompted you? Like, were you seeing there was just a lot of stuff wrong? Did you feel a certain way about when you were on the show? Like, what got you started to be like, I need to start this organization?
It goes back to when we were filming. So I was approached on LinkedIn as part of the casting process, and I got this inkling that I should just respond to this and get a call and see what is this about. Like, I had heard of the show, I didn't know much about it. Well, that was November of 2020. I was single for almost a year at that point. Dating during COVID somehow found a way to get worse than it ever should have been or I ever imagined it could be. And I just thought to myself, maybe this is a good way to meet someone. And I was, successful in my career as a marketing executive, really kind of living my best life. I own a condo in Chicago. I have a very awesome dog, good job, everything except someone to share it with. So as I was going through this process, I just kind of kept going. Didn't really think that I would be cast in the show. I'm not very dramatic. I'm kind of like a lefty activist who's involved in politics, local, federal, all of that stuff. I kind of have this labor workers' rights mentality. I come from blue collar work, even though I work in marketing now. Like, my origins were living through, the 90s and 2000s when manufacturing jobs were going away and my family struggled. And so I just got this little bit of a background. And so I went on the show, and they kind of sell you on it, right? We're not The Bachelor. We're not those other shows. We're going to be different. We actually want to help you find love. Like, you're a great person. You deserve someone. Let's understand what you're looking for and make sure that, we're on the same page about what compatibility would look like and all of these things. So they're just like selling you the whole time. And I jokingly say I like sleepwalked into the whole thing, right? And then while we were filming, there were times that I had kind of noticed my spidey senses going off in one way or another. We were locked in hotel rooms for several days at a time, unable to leave. I didn't feel like I had adequate access to food and water. Over the course of about 3 weeks of filming, from the time you get there until the time you go on your little honeymoon and then you come back to your, quote, normal life, you have basically lost all of your autonomy. You are just shuffled around in buses where you need to go. You don't have an ID. You don't have money. You don't have your passport. When we went to Mexico, we were in downtown Cancun in a random hotel without any identification or money, which just, in retrospect, just seems insane. Like, you can't go to a foreign country anywhere without ID. Like, that's just not a good position to be in, right? Let alone no money. So I kind of looked at these things at the time, and there were things that were like, oh, that doesn't seem right. And in those 3 weeks, I lost like 15 pounds, and I could really tell when I went to put my suit on to do the first meeting, because I had them tailored right before leaving, and it was really baggy. And then when I got home and I got on the scale and I saw a picture of myself too, and I was like, wow, I'm like actually like really lost some weight here. And so there were like things like that kind of trick, but it's such a pressure cooker environment. Like, you're being filmed 18, 20 hours a day for a lot of that time. You're being shuffled from location to location. And then even when you get back, like, you're kind of isolated for a couple of days when you get back. Say it was COVID protocol, whatever, if that's true or not. And then you go and you meet the families and the friends and all of that kind of stuff. You go on dates and you're kind of getting back into your normal job and your normal life, but then filming at nights and on the weekends. So it just is this giant busy environment. But what you also don't take into account, and what you could never prepare for, is the pressure cooker of important life altering decisions you're making at every single point in here. Every single day when you are in the pods, which are, for those of you who don't know, I should have started with this, but Love is Blind, you meet people, 15 men, 15 women, and you talk through a wall, and you don't see each other unless you get engaged to someone. So every single day, you're whittling down from 15 to less and less people. And then you want to make, those are big decisions that you're making you're making them after, 18 hours of filming all day and being on sound when you're not being recorded and all of these things. And so you're just making these life altering decisions on a daily basis. And then you're making the decision, oh, do I want to get engaged? Oh, am I nervous about seeing this person for the first time? Am I going to marry this person in 3-4 weeks? What am I going to make a good impression on the family, on the friends? Are they going to make a good impression on my family and friends? Like, all of this pressure cooker environment that you don't even have time to sit down and reflect. And then, I got married on the show, one of the two couples that did. And then the next day, they're just gone. And it's like, I always say, like, you get dropped back into reality. So, like, we were so used to being told what to do, where to go, what to talk about. When we were at our wedding, we actually asked permission to cut our wedding cake. So we're like, we don't know if that we're allowed to cut our own wedding cake. So it was like, that's the level of like control that you give up and that they have over you. So when they're gone, it's like a whole new pressure cooker environment. And for us, like, and I think we really fell in love. And I think like the premise of the concept is very real, but it's so much more than just that with this pressure cooker environment. So then we're like, well, what do we do now? Like, do we move in together? Do we just date but we're married? Is that weird? What do we tell people? We can't tell them we got married on this show. Like, it's just this constant, you know brain working and making these decisions, and they're all life altering. And so for me, I felt like for a long time after the show happened. And then, by the way, you got 8 months and the show's airing and your whole life changes overnight. But like, I was like, okay, how are we going to, have this new relationship? How are we going to make sure that we're solid ground before our whole worlds change, so that we know we have like a very solid relationship and you can withstand all the judgment, all the online love, hate, admiration, what it's like to not be able to go to the grocery store without being stopped 10 times, all of these things that are going on the whole time. And it wasn't fast forward to the show comes out, and then a few months later, TMZ leaks that we're getting a divorce. And, like my mom found out from TMZ. Like, that's how quick and crazy these things are happening. And so that happened. I ended up going through a pretty public divorce. I ended up losing my job as a VP in marketing. And it felt like the world was happening to me, and I was no longer an active participant, which is something that I had worked so hard on before the show through years of therapy and working on myself and understanding. I live with depression. So like understanding what I can and can't do, and, learning how a dog helps, which I think we were talking about a little bit before airing, and all of this stuff. And so I was just at this point where I'm like, I am at this place that I was at in my 20s where like, I don't know who I am anymore. I lost myself completely in a marriage, trying to make it work, and in this relationship, while also trying to maintain my own integrity while the whole world is watching me and everybody's got commentary on it. Rumors starting up that I had an affair, and then they went after my friend, and like all of this crazy stuff happening to me. And then I just hit rock bottom. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And this was in December of 2022. I had an interview with one of the co-founders, Dr. Isabel Morley of the UCAN Foundation, who was a psychologist writing for Psychology Today. And she was doing an article about how she's seeing like literal abuse happening on screen watching the newest season, which was season 3 at the time of Love is Blind, and how as like a psychologist, she can't, unsee this stuff. And so she wanted to do an interview, and I agreed to do an anonymous interview. It went on 2 days, several hours each day. And it was the first time that I had ever gone from the very beginning of that LinkedIn message to where I was now. And that was the moment for me where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is not me. This feeling of inadequacy, this like lack of confidence, this, just letting the world happen to me and not taking control of my own autonomy in the world. I can't do this anymore. So I like deleted social media for I think it was probably over a week or around a week. I remember it was New Year's coming up, and that's when I popped back on and I just sent a message to everyone. So I was getting lots of DMs at the time, people concerned, people also telling me horrible things that they hoped that I did to myself or to, whatever. And so just this mix of stuff. And I went on and, one, to let people know that I'm alive. And then two, like, to just remind people that like, hey, it's the holidays and your favorite influencer friends and all of the celebrities you follow are going to be posting pictures in their gowns and these extravagant events. And I'm sitting here at home. So you can sit at home too. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so I just wanted to give that message because I knew that was something I used to feel like I'm the only loser not doing something extravagant on New Year's. And then here I was opting to do that this time and trying to get back to like that confident person. And so the next few months, I just really thought about how manipulative, how exploitative it was, and how little they did to support the journey of people that they put in this situation. And I willingly joined. I didn't know everything, but how there wasn't really any support. And how now I, who have a good resume, a strong career history, I'm a good person, I treat people well, and I just got completely ransacked by the system to the point where I wanted to like unalive myself. And that was why I had to take the social media break. I had to like get really intensive with my therapist, which by the way, no insurance. And I had, a nice therapist that was like, we'll sort this out. Like, let's make sure you're okay. And so for several months, I went back to like working on the fundamentals of stuff that I did in my teens. Like I journaled all the time, wrote about how I was feeling and what was causing these feelings and why was I feeling them and what did I deserve, and why did these things happen to me, and try to switch those things around to how can I turn this into something that matters. And initially it was the only way I'm ever going to feel okay is if I just go back to my reality pre-show. I hang out with my friends that are closest to me, that were there before, during, and going to be there after. I stop worrying about being a social media influencer or a celebrity or like whatever that stuff is, because I'm not any of those. I'm just me. And I'm sure you can relate to a lot of that too, because you're just you. And some crazy stuff happens, and then all of a sudden everybody's got eyes on you. And I maintained my integrity the whole time. I didn't talk shit, which I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but like I didn't do any of that stuff. I just was like, this isn't right. I can handle this. I can handle anything. And then I thought a lot about what my ex-wife went through, and thinking about all of the things that they said and did to her while we were filming, the lack of support after, how much she was struggling with, things while we were going through this all together. And there was just no care, no support. And like, that's not fair. Like, they shouldn't have treated her that way. And so that's when I was like thinking to myself, well, I've got to do something, because I'm just the kind of person that if I go back to my normal life, I'm going to be aggravated that I didn't do something, because I'm the kind of person that says someone should do something. And if no one will do something, I'll do it. And so I jokingly say this all the time, but like I was group project lead for a lot of group projects in school because no one else wanted to do it. And so I was just like, you know what? I don't have anything to lose. I don't have a job. I'm having a hard time getting a job because of the show. People don't take me as seriously. My interviews would turn into questions about how I manage my time, but with the show, and like, what am I going to do if a customer doesn't like me because of how I was on the show? Like all these crazy scenarios that you don't even know you're going to ever have to deal with. Right. And it's just like, and there's no right answer for it. Right. Because everybody's going to have a different interpretation. And so to me, it was just all this stuff. And then I was finally like, I don't have anything to lose anymore. And I'm I was pissed off. And then I was like, the only way I will ever get over this is if I do something about it. And so that was when I decided to join, with a few others, including Dr. Isabel, and start the UCAN Foundation and really speak out about what the real experience was like. And I didn't really know what that was until I had that breaking point and then that reflection time where I was like, I've got to actually deal with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a long-winded answer.
Well, I just feel like there's so many things you said that resonate. Also, there's so many things that were messed up. And something you said earlier about how you even had to ask if you had to cut the cake. To me, I see a lot of coercive control in that.
I think you're right.
And even producers, like I produce stuff too. And you have to have this balance of ethical versus not convincing someone to do it. Because, like, they say sometimes a good producer can convince anyone to do anything, but that shouldn't be how it is.
Right.
You
I
know?
think you're right. And I think one of the challenges and one of like my areas of activism is to hit up people that are in college that want to get into this industry, or there's like reality TV classes now, like humanities types classes now, and like talk to these students and educate people so that they can watch it with more integrity and like teach people at a young age. And I think any system will chew people up and spit them out eventually, right? You succumb to your surroundings most of the time. So I don't know long term if someone can have these ethics coming out of film school and then work in the industry for 20 years and have them still. They probably wouldn't be there. But even like that education element early on, when people are thinking about careers in these fields, whether it's true crime or documentaries in general or reality TV, like having that ethical integrity, that point of where you'll stop, have that line of where you won't go that far.
Yeah. Like, there's been so many survivors, even with the project that I'm working on now. and I want them to tell their story. I think it would be so good for them to tell their story. However, a no is a no, and you respect that, and you say, how can I support that no? And also, what do you need when the project comes out to also feel like you're not going to be bamboozled?
That's a great point. And I think one of the things, I think we talked about this before a little bit, but like one of the things that I think is so important is that there's a moral and ethical responsibility when you are putting people's stories out for anyone to see, for entertainment, by the way, and to make money, that you have an ethical and moral responsibility to ensure their wellness and ensure they're supported and ensure they have the resources that they need, because life changes like that. It's the snap of a finger. I woke up one day and I had 240 something Instagram followers, and they announced the cast and I had over 7,000. Over the next 3 weeks, I got up to over 300,000 Instagram followers. What what do you do with that? What do you do with people recognizing you the moment you leave your house? What do you do with people talking poorly about you on the internet when you're no longer showing up as a Google search for the things that you've put out on the internet? It's now for what other people have put out on the internet. How do you handle the negativity? And it goes beyond delete it, block them, don't Google yourself. Like, sure, those are great tactics, but like there's the coping mechanisms and the like understanding that you have to disconnect yourself from the characters that are being portrayed on TV or being portrayed in content versus who you are as an individual. Because they had, for me, 114 minutes of curated content specifically telling the story they wanted to sell. And I had 35 years of my life that have made me who I am today or at that time. And people don't know that. So, like, how do you reconcile that? And we have a natural instinct, too, if we are misrepresented, we want to defend ourselves. That's not just on TV. Think about your group chat, right? Your group chat where someone says something that is a misrepresentation of you. And now all of a sudden you got 100 people messaging in this group chat. And you're like, wait a minute, I just forgot to respond to this piece of it because I didn't see it, right? And so you want to defend yourself, and people want to defend themselves and tell their truths. And so it's a very, to me, it's not delete the comment, block the person, go see a therapist. It's like, what is your comprehensive plan to support people when their lives change overnight for your content, for entertaining and making money off of people? It's inhumane if you don't take care of them. And it's
Yeah.
different than, a performance, right? Like an actor or an actress performing in a movie. I'm sure there's some people out there that like think that's real, or those characters are real, or there's a dramatization as an example, and there's liberties taken with that and all of that. But the reality is like these people's real lives are on display, or incidents that have happened to them in their life. And there should be a ethical and moral responsibility to make sure these people are okay and
Yeah.
supported for as long as they need.
Yeah. Well, one of the shows I'm such a fan of is The Walking Dead.
Me
They
too.
have really?
Yeah, I love that show.
My dog is named Dixon after Daryl
Daryl?
Dixon. Yeah.
Nice. Not Merle
Yeah.
Dixon, right?
No. I loved his character
I
though.
know, me too.
He's so great. And then like
He was
Jeff
just about to have an arc, and that's when they killed him. That's what I
Yeah.
love about the show. It's so unpredictable.
Yes. And then he went on to Guardians of the Galaxy, so
Step down.
right. But yeah, no, I love The Walking Dead so much. But a part of that show is that they do have psychologists on set for them. They're making sure that they're taken care of. And even I've worked in film and TV production before my story even came out. I was doing so much background on like Mall Cop 2, these different indie films and stuff. And here's the thing, we are taken care of. We are fed. We're like, oh, do you need this much food? Here's the buffet. Here's everything. Go feed yourself. Go do this. You need water. You need this. You need that. We're taken care of because we're unionized and you get whatever you need. And it makes me so upset that you lost 15 pounds and that you felt like you didn't have the need even to like have food available to you. That makes me so upset.
Well, and I think too, like when you're in, and I understand that there's there's specific things with a show like Love is Blind that you have to protect the integrity of the show concept, right? Like I understand that. And you had to get permission to go to the bathroom. You couldn't always go at the same time because they needed to coordinate. Like it's annoying as an adult that I can't go to the bathroom when I need to go to the bathroom. But there's things like that it's like, okay, you know, but when there's inadequate food, when there's inadequate water, when you can't go outside, when you can't, I mean, there was one point I went to the bathroom and I coughed, and this was during COVID, and they were listening to me through my microphone in the bathroom. Like, so I started unplugging my mic when I would go to the bathroom. So it's like you couldn't even go to the bathroom in peace, right? So but I think that the whole purpose is to create these like very structurally, psychologically manipulative scenarios. And I remember like I was very well aware of the manipulation from producers and stuff in reality shows, but like the structural way that it manipulates you, the way you're taken out of your normal life structure, where right now I could say, this be really rude, like, hold on a second, I'm going to go get some water. And it wouldn't be the end of the world. You would be like, okay, hold on a sec. And then I come back. So it's like those little things. Or I intermittent fast. So I don't eat breakfast. But like there were times there where if I didn't eat breakfast, I didn't know when I was going to eat again. So I'd eat breakfast, but then I'm uncomfortable. So it's like you're out of your element. And there's so many structural things where now they control where you go, when you go, where you don't go. You can't leave your hotel room, when you sleep, when you work, all of these things. And it's a very structural level, whether by design or not, structural level of manipulation so that your nervous system's out of whack. You're anxious, you're hungry, you're thirsty, you're full when you're not used to being full. You're not getting exercise in. Like walks for me are very important to managing my mental health. Getting outside is very important to me managing my mental health. Those things were all gone. And so the structural element to it, I think, is something that people don't consider or maybe take for granted as a real indicator of how a person's wellness is during the show and after the show.
Yes, yes. And even, times where I'm on production, it's unionized. If I ask for something, they don't have a gluten-free option, they'll run and go get me a gluten-free option,
Are you
you know?
gluten-free too?
Yes. Well, I
Yeah.
try to be. I try to be. There's
Okay.
times where I'm like my sister's wedding was this weekend and she had the cake, so I
Oh,
had a few bites of
congratulations.
that. Thank you. And then I didn't really get to choose what I eat. Otherwise, I'm so picky. I like my meat. I intermittent fast too. Like,
Yep.
I
Me
like
too.
my yoga. I need like my routine.
Yeah. 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 Me too. And that stuff was all gone. And a lot of times, and they knew they take all your dietary stuff. They knew. And it was just like, okay, well, here's your salad. I'm like, I'm 6'5" and 210 pounds. I need like 15 of these salads. And
Yeah.
where's the
Or like
protein?
protein. Yeah. Protein. You
Yeah,
need protein.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just, yeah, that's crazy. But then you're on your union set and they take care of that for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And like even Dirty John, that was the scripted series was unionized. And you show up and you're like, oh my gosh, there's lobster, there's this, there's that. Why isn't that for what you guys are going through? Because I'm pretty sure at the end of the day, they're making probably the same amount of money or even more off of Love is
Well, they're
Blind,
making
you
more
know?
because they don't have to pay cast members. I made $1,000 a week stipend. That was it. And then, I look at it this way. I never really thought about the residual thing until kind of starting all of this. But every 6 months, there's a new season of the show that comes out. And every 6 months, it starts up again with people like, I just watched your season or I watched your season again. And here's my thoughts.
Yep.
And it's like, all of this stuff. And it's like, wow, people are going to watch this on Netflix for the rest of my life. And I'm not going to see a penny of it.
Mm-hmm. And your
And I just
likeness
have to
is
keep
being
reliving
used.
it every
Yeah.
6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, I feel from what I've seen from this show, like you were stable, like they put you as like a stable, like great guy, like that was like your persona in a sense, at least from what I saw.
Well, they
And
cast that way.
yeah,
I've heard from several people that they have like these profiles or these personas of what they're casting for. And I'm pretty sure I was the stable guy. I was a little bit older than a lot of the other people, owned a house, had a good job, marketing executive. They put that on the screen. Like I was, been to therapy, had kind of my shit together. And I think that was a persona they were looking to fill.
Yes, and even when I forget your ex's name, but
Danielle.
Danielle, whenever she shared something vulnerable, you had a great response to it. You were like, "Walk me through this. Tell me a little bit more about this. I want to listen. I want to be here." And so like even that was honestly a hook of a show. Like you had that stability. That was like kind of the difference between like The Bachelor in a sense. But a lot of the things that I'm hearing that happen on The Bachelor too. They lock you in the rooms. The Cancun, you're without your cell phone, all this stuff like was on the show. And then I like interviewed Ashley I and like Danielle Bard and like a few other people, and like they all talk about how you're put in this room, you're not able to have this, you're not able to have that, and even like the food's limited too. And it's like this kind of needs to change in a sense for
Yeah.
human.
We are human beings first. That's what I always say to people. And I think what happens is there's a couple things that I've noticed with viewers, right? One is there's people that are obviously like, wait a minute, I had no idea that this stuff was going on. I had no idea that it was so exploitative, so manipulative, so much editing goes on, so much context left out, and they're open to it. And then there's people that already know, and then there's also people, who are upset because they think they probably could have done it better than you, or wouldn't have complained, or would have traded their rights for 15 minutes of fame. And then I think those are the people that, you know you can talk to them and you can help educate them, but like I don't know that they'll ever be an ally to help get this change. But when you look across the shows, and it's been cooking shows, the Bachelor, the whole Bachelor universe, other Love is Blind seasons, Married at First Sight, 90 Day Fiance, Married at First Sight in Australia, The Circle in England, Love Island, all of these shows, there's common denominators, and it isn't just one production company or just love shows or just cooking shows or just competition shows. And competition shows are a little bit different because they have a little bit more regulation because they've been around a little bit longer, but it's universal across all shows, across
Yes.
all continents. And there's little nuances and differences, but the reality is that you're not treated the way that you would be treated if you were part of a union and you had labor rights. You had labor rights around the amount of time you can work, which is be filmed, which is, and to people who say, well, they're just cameras just following you around on reality TV, documentaries, whatever. No, it ain't. That's not how it works. You are put in manufactured situations most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're told what to talk about. People around you are told how to talk and interact, and they have their topics they want you to discuss, and the things that they want you to say, and the things they want your mom to say and your sister to say, and all of this stuff going on, and that is all happening in
Yeah.
this. Yeah, so it's work. I mean, there was a scene that Danielle and I had to fully act out because it was a scene. It was a argument resolution that happened off camera, and they were like, well, we've got it on camera, so we need a resolution on camera, or people are going to wonder what happened. And so we acted out this whole scene there, and it's silly because we weren't not hired to be actors in theory. But when you don't have labor rights, right, and you don't have workers or permission to speak about your working conditions, you're a contractor, you don't have any of these basic rights. You don't have breaks, you don't have overtime. You can't really tell them no because you're contractually bound to do things, or you can be feed $50,000. All sorts of things going around it to protect the format, to protect the way the business functions of reality TV, of documentaries. Like these contracts are designed to protect the industry and the way that it operates, to silence people and then make them feel that, and legally do so, make them feel like they don't have rights.
Yes. Well, and it's crazy to me too because in acting too, if you are getting directions from the director or anyone like other than the producers and you're being told to do certain things, then you get a pay bump for that because then you're being told to do more lines.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So they add a scene, like your paycheck goes up?
Yeah.
Like in filming? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Or say you don't have any lines and then the director gives you direction, then you get a pay bump because then you have to say lines. And then usually if you have one line or more, then it's more money.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the case in reality TV or I'm sure you know documentaries or any other kind of content.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I think like union representation needs to come out of this for all types of content. And I think that until we do that and we decide as a culture, as a society of human beings that, hey, we're human beings, everyone should have basic rights, everyone should have access to basic needs, everyone should have the ability to talk about their working conditions. You know, that's kind of like the foundation of what we've decided labor should be as a society. And that should apply to documentary participants. It should apply to reality TV cast. It should apply to, you know, podcast show hosts. It should apply to anyone that's working to make somebody else money with content.
Yes, yes. You know, because the execs are living great. They don't have to worrying about not getting a job and stuff. And, you know, there's so many things I could talk about to you with this. And even in my situation, my mom, when the whole series came out and everything, the podcast came out, she kept losing builders. And they were like, I don't want to do business with this lady because she can't like see a psychopath, apparently.
Are you kidding me?
No, my mom lost $3 million worth of business deals.
That is awful.
She had to turn the company name over to my sister, who like she was already like in line to like get that because she basically, you know, was running and doing all the stuff. And so they had to change the name to AI instead of Ambrosia Interior Design.
I cannot believe that she had to go through that on top of a documentary or docuseries stuff podcast coming out on her life. Like, that's awful. I'm sorry for her.
Thank you. Well, it shows that even too, when you get on these productions as well, and your whole life is out there, your life is not the same anymore. And the job that you had isn't going to work. The stuff that you had in your life isn't going to work. And you have to have a whole different life now.
And that's what I think these content producers need to help people adjust to.
Yes.
You know, I remember I kept thinking to myself, because I read the whole contract. I even had it amended at one point because I had to do podcasts and interviews and media for work. And I had to have that amended that I was allowed to do that if it was work related, because otherwise you have to get permission to do everything for a long time after. And I just remember to myself, I was thinking to myself, well, when I read this, oh, we can defame you, we can misrepresent you, you have no recourse, all of that stuff I'm reading. I'm like, well, I'm just going to be me and I'm a good guy and I act with integrity. What could possibly go wrong? Well, I didn't account for other people saying stuff about me. I didn't account for the Reddit threads. I didn't account for Google now being Googling my name now being made up of ET People Magazine content instead of my LinkedIn profile, like, you know, or Instagram. You know what I mean? It's like you don't account for these things and then try to find someone who's hiring for a job that isn't going to Google the candidates.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's crazy. And you don't account for those things and they don't teach you about those things or support you during those things.
Yeah. And it's, you know, in order to also have your SEO and your stuff be first, sometimes you have to pay money to people to keep doing that.
I know. I've talked to some people in reality TV that have done that. They've actually paid people to help them. Good for you.
Yeah. But it's like I spent all of my money just getting that stuff.
Well, it's good that you did it. And I can tell you, like, your Google you're good.
Well, and now all the Reddit stuff went lower. So I'm like, okay, great.
I don't even think Reddit should be a part of SEO. Google should fix their algorithm. That is like the worst place. Yeah. And by the way, like for Love is Blind and other reality shows, the shows are moderating it. So the stuff that's getting pushed up, it's not the community doing it. It's not. there's trolls on there. They're typing things that they want keyword. They're uplifting them. I know on Love is Blind Reddit thread, I've had probably 100 people tell me every time something for UCAN gets posted, it gets deleted.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's totally moderated, and it shouldn't be a part of an organic search. But I think we know that that's probably not the case,
Yeah.
or ever going to be the case.
Why not just talk about your organization? Because I mean, it's as a whole. It's no one in particular that's like treating us like a certain way. It's like the whole, it's not one person versus the next. It's just everyone doing this and thinking that it's okay to do it and not understanding because they're not in our shoes.
Yeah. And I don't think they care. I mean, the entire business model, which, dates back for reality TV to the late 80s when the WGA was on strike, and you saw cops come out, and you saw, all of those talk shows where people were getting exposed, and all of these things were going on. And then, it happened again in 2008, which is the explosion we saw that we live in now. And it almost happened again a couple years ago when the WGA and SAG was on strike, and there was just going to be a whole bunch of reality TV, but the unions for the crew stood in solidarity.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they would have just kept producing more reality TV.
Yeah, so true. Well, I feel like hopefully people learned a lot in this conversation.
I feel
And
like I
then,
talked a lot.
no, I love it though. It's so like I could talk to you for hours just because of all our similarities. And, now you're a Walking Dead fan, God
I
bless.
know. Do you still watch any of the spinoffs?
Okay, I canceled my AMC because I was like, I have like 10 services with like Peacock, Netflix, Hulu, just every Showtime.
HBO,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I'm like, I'm watching White Lotus right now, so that's my main focus. And then I want to watch the spin-offs again, but I'll probably wait. I don't know. I also want to meet Daryl Dixon one day.
I have a funny Daryl Dixon story to tell you.
Really?
Yeah. So the year's 2014. I go down to Austin for Austin City Limits. My friend and I we were there for work. We were interested in some bands. Like, he wasn't really a, ACL person.
Okay.
So we decided one night we were going to go to the Alamo House on Dirty Fifth, and we were going to watch Gone Girl. Sit down to watch Gone Girl. I look about 6 seats over, and Norman Reedus, Daryl Dixon, is sitting there. And I'm like, and he has a very decisive look. I was not mistaken. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, I can't believe I'm watching Gone Girl 6 seats away from Daryl. And then, best part, we peed next to each other after the movie in the urinals. And he could tell that I saw him, and he was just like, hey. And I was like, hi. And then we went our separate ways, because men don't really talk when they're, using the urinal. But that's my Daryl Dixon story. It was like such a small world, and I couldn't believe, and that was in the height of the Walking Dead fandom too. But it was just so funny. So I sat 6 seats away and peed next to him.
Oh my gosh, that's rad. You got to pee next to him.
Couldn't think of a better way to meet him.
God bless. I've been so close to him before, but there's been like mobs around him, and I'm not that person to get into the mob and like mob him like a zombie, that doesn't work for me, but I've been so like, I went to this magazine premiere called Riders Magazine for like motorcycles, and then he was on the cover, he was there and stuff. So I was like, and then I had a mutual friend with his PR person, and then she was gonna set up like a meet and greet and stuff for me to either get like coffee or something with him. But then COVID happened, and then and then I had another friend. She knew a bunch of people that worked on The Walking Dead, so I was gonna be there and be a zombie that COVID happened,
I feel like all those close calls, you have to make it happen.
Yeah, it will happen one day, maybe when my other stuff comes out. I can't say what exactly it is to the public yet, but when that stuff comes out, I'm like, fingers crossed,
Yeah.
But there's been a few like someone from Alexandria that was like in the Guard She like made me like a personal video because my friend was doing an acting class with her and she was like, my friend Tara. So
Cool.
she sent me a video. And then Carl, my friend Julia, she's like really her brother-in-law is this DJ like named Jaws. And so Carl, why am I blanking on his real name?
I'm blanking on it too. I was trying to think of what it was.
Yes, that kid. But he was into DJing and stuff. And
Oh,
so,
okay. I didn't know that.
yeah, he was backstage. And then my friend got like a video with him for me. And then he was like, oh, yeah, no, I heard about that story because I'm known as the zombie killer. Yeah.
That's awesome. God, what was his name? It's driving me crazy. Yeah, I'm gonna remember it. Like,
When we get off.
yeah, Chandler
Yeah.
Riggs.
Yes, Chandler.
Yes, Chandler Riggs.
Yes, yes. And his whole family is like actors and stuff. And yeah, I'm way too into that stuff. I read the comics too.
Oh my gosh, I got into the comics a little bit. I really. It took me a little while to get into Walking Dead. I don't think I got into it until after season 2 aired.
Same.
But then I was like, yeah, obsessed with it, and I just could like my whole Sundays were planned around watching that show the moment it aired. And it was must see TV for so many years.
Yes.
And I thought it kind of like fell off, and I stuck with it. I'm the only one of my friends I think that stuck with it all the way till the end before the spinoffs. But the spinoffs, I couldn't get in. I got into the one with Rick and Michonne. I watched that full one. Yeah, but the other ones I couldn't stick with. I tried.
Okay. Like the one in New York, it was a hard time sticking with that one for me.
Yeah, that was with Negan and Maggie, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
that one was hard.
Yeah, and I actually love Fear the Walking Dead because it's based in LA.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I bet that's fun.
Yes, and then they actually did it in Austin. I lived in Austin for a bit, and they did like the Dell Stadium, and I used to go to baseball games there. So it's like, oh my God.
Well, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then to see it all like post-apocalyptic.
Oh yeah, and then Kevin Zegers, he was in that show, and he was in my show too. And when I met him, I was like, oh my gosh. But then I didn't realize that I have like friends in the acting industry, and because like me being in this area. And so I brought one of my ex-boyfriend's friend. Well, my ex-boyfriend was there too, not Collier, but Jimmy, the guy who was in all that stuff with me.
Yeah, yeah.
And his friend Devin worked with Kevin, and Kevin is a method actor.
Mm.
And he does like whatever he feels like comes to the scene. And he also, if he has a beef with you in the show, he has a beef with you in real life. So he threw a phone at this guy I knew in a scene, and it wasn't written in the scene.
It was in character.
Yeah. So by the time I was like saying hi to Kevin and be like, oh my gosh. And then I turn around and they're not there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just a fan. It's great to meet you. I think he thought I was a little cuckoo.
That's hilarious. Oh, well.
It's great. And then, are you a fan of Sons of Anarchy?
I've actually never watched it. I've had so many people tell me that I should watch that.
Oh, it's a good show. It's a good show. But
I've got so many shows I need to watch. I'm like so far behind on. I haven't watched White Lotus either.
So good.
I know.
It's so good. Connie.
I was at brunch with my friends on Sunday, and then we went to the Chicago Blackhawks hockey game, and they were sitting there. It was like a good 20 minutes. I just was not participating in the conversation while they were talking about White Lotus.
It's a good show. It's Jennifer Coolidge kind of made it for the first 2 seasons, and I love Connie because like she will forever like remind me of my mom since she played my mom.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good show. I think you need to watch it. But I'm also getting way off track now because I geek out on shows, The Walking Dead, like comic books, like all of that stuff.
Well, no one talks with me about The Walking Dead anymore, so I appreciate the conversation.
Anytime.
I still think there's so much there that in that show that people just should talk about. But
yeah,
I digress. We'll start a Walking Dead podcast to go over that.
Let's do it. Yes, I love it. Well, I always do a little segment for the Patreon, just like an exclusive part for everyone. So for the people that are dropping off here, where can we find you on social media? Where can we support your organization?
Yeah, you can follow the organization, the UCANFoundation.org for the website, or you can just search UCAN Foundation in Instagram and it shows up. And then you can find me at nthompson513 on Instagram. You can also just search my name, Nick Thompson. I'll show up. And then you can also connect with me on TikTok, which is Nick Thompson513. I'm not very active there. And when I am, I like post and ghost because I think the algorithm is too addictive. I don't want to be a part of it, but you can reach me there too.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll continue on for the Patreon. Thank you for listening to today's episode with Nick Thompson. If you enjoyed this episode, please give 5 stars on Apple or Spotify. If you are watching on YouTube, please leave a comment down below, and I love to hear your feedback. So until next time, I'm Tara Newell, and thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it.